I'm here to introduce Stephen Allison, who I hope is, yay, that's great. So Stephen Allison is a cybersecurity and risk management expert with over 30 years of experience. He has led cybersecurity efforts at 2 global Fortune 500 companies and mentors security leaders globally, leveraging his diverse background in corporate, military, and strategic roles. And here's his presentation: how XDR platforms are using AI to run playbooks and train SOC engineers during incident response activities.
Well, that was a great introduction to what I'm going to talk about here. Again, I'm Steve Allison. I've been in the business for 35 years between intelligence and IT and cybersecurity. I kind of got hooked on cyber when I was in the Air Force, went into the Information Warfare Center. They taught me how to hack. I got hooked and never looked back from that point on. So I've been a CISO for a couple of large organizations, but quite honestly, my most impressive resume is that I've been married to a teacher. She's been a teacher for 28 years, and I get to watch all of the things that she has to deal with on an IT level in a school that I can't wait for her to retire in about 7 months. I mean, when you have 12-year-old kids, 6th graders, wearing ankle bracelets or ankle monitors because they're stealing cars, that's the school I don't want her teaching in, but that's where she is. So quick question, does anybody know when the very first ransomware was delivered? Just give me a year. Anyone? A guess? Right, absolutely. I don't know, but I'm going to have to find something. I've got a clicker. Yeah, 1989. It was actually an AIDS researcher back when that was a really big and upcoming thing, and he sent out a disk to several hundred other researchers for contact tracing, and that disk had a piece of malware in it that after 90 reboots, it would kick up this screen, and you had to pay the ransom in order to get your computer back. Otherwise, the computer is just, it's a brick, it's been blocked out. But that was great. I've never had anybody guess that before, so I'll stand a little closer so you can turn the gain down. So, in the news, who wants to be in the news? Anyone, you want to be in the news? Okay, great. I'm going to show you how. Like LAUSD, they got compromised a few years ago, and then after they got everything fixed, they had CISA's help, they had FBI's help, they had a lot of help. In February of last year, they were actually compromised again, and it was a big deal that time. They ended up losing a lot of records in that one. And so these are just some other educational things. And Frontier Airlines, 750,000 social, which is really nothing now compared to the Social Security office being compromised and losing everybody's. So kicking off an investigation, right? The question is, for this particular thing, I'm going to kind of walk through how AI is working in an investigation versus how you would normally do it. So for folks that have been in the IT business for a while, how many of you have actually used an IP config/all command? Please, God, raise your hands. Thank you. How many of you have used a who am I command? How many of you have used a who am I command on your own desktop? Wow. Okay, I can tell you in 30 years, I've never logged into my own desktop and then typed who am I to find out who I am. Maybe in a few years as my memory fades, I may, but I've never done that. So when you look at like running a who am I command or an IP config/all command, when you look at MITRE framework, they look at that as it's a very low, it's a low warning on there, a low event. But when you look at them together, to me, as a security guy, I look at that and say, this person doesn't know where they are. They're doing some enumeration. They're trying to figure out where they are to figure out where they can go. And if it's run by a script, like in this particular example, this file.exe, I'll bring my drink up here. Introverts doing presentations, usually not my favorite, but I manage. So run by a file, to me, that's a big hit. I need to look in that a lot more. So AI, or before AI, you would see it as a different line item in a XDR profile. Like, hey, somebody ran a who am I command. MITRE says that's low, don't worry about it. There's an IP config, MITRE says it's low. But when you start piecing them together, it becomes a bigger deal. And XDR technologies in the past, when you would look at a screen like this, and I'm using Trend Micro's Vision 1 for several reasons, but one of them is that they give me access to their console, they let me run through all this stuff, and I can put my presentations together with that. And I haven't had great access with some of the other vendors. But for what I'm showing here, you could pretty much assume that most of the big major vendors in endpoint security are doing pretty much what I'm talking about here. So this is just being used as an example. So previously, before AI was farmed into a lot of these apps or XDR technologies, each one of, like on this particular event that's highlighted, there's 26 alerts, right? So each alert would be different. It may have a similar number or a different range in time, but it may be in the same date. But now, using AI, they can take those 26 events and they correlate them into 26 alerts created into one event. So you're looking at the whoami command is being run. If you look about halfway down on the left side there, you'll see the whoami and the IP config execution along with malicious base64 code, PowerShell connections, a Cobalt strike, and then you can go into each of these, like you can click on a machine and see, oh, this is lateral movement with a Cobalt strike. So it's correlating a lot of these events to make it make sense a lot better. And what we're doing is they're taking information from not just the endpoint, but from email security, from the network security, from your CASB, from the cloud, and they're piecing all of that together to be able to show you, give you the big picture, right, of what's going on. And not just their own tools, but also tools from other vendors that they can ingest. And I know that previously, over the last several years, XDR technologies would, they would do an exfil on their information to a SOC or something similar along those lines to be able to give that information to the SOC so they can actually see it, then go back to the XDR console and react to it and respond. And now they're starting to ingest it. So you're going to see more of these endpoint security vendors that are ingesting information from Cisco, from Palo, from other security-related proof point vendors, and they're going to and you're going to see that now coming in, and you're going to see these mini SOCs. What they're trying to do is they're trying to build these mini SOCs for organizations that can't afford a 24/7 SOC. They're not required to carry a 24/7 SOC, but they do want to have the protection of being able to have an incident response team and being able to manage these, right? So, breaking down the alerts, going into each one of the 65, I mean, this ransomware detection, and it will show you on this particular one, again, there's 26, so if you see this one block of executables here, there's 26 different layers to this for each one that's being run, and it will show you what execution, where it started from. And in this case, it started from a file that was downloaded and opened. It was called ZZZ, and then as you can see, it opens up, it creates another executable. It opens up command exe, and then if you go down, it just starts showing all of the different things that these commands are doing. And again, just about any XDR console is going to show you this for forensic purposes. And with this one, being able to correlate all of these different tools into one console and using AI, you can see that along the top here, this particular attack has gone through 7 phases. It's gone through execution, privilege escalation, defensive evasion, credential access, discovery, collection, and impact. One thing it hasn't done so far is exfiltration. So we haven't seen any exfiltration of data in this particular instance. So this is a great time to be able to either shut the IP connections down to wherever they're connecting outside, you shut the systems off, you'll isolate the systems, or you can actually kick the user off, log him out of everything he's logged into, because the hacker's probably using a simple user or has tried to escalate his privileges at this time. And so using the AI assistant, so everything I just told you is things I would know to do with XDR, because I've used XDR for so long now that it's just kind of second nature. But for those who haven't, people who are just getting into it, maybe they're fairly new to it, they're trying to learn it, or they've been put on a SOC team as a SOC 1, level 1 engineer, this is where they can get a lot of help. So with this particular incident, we're going to call up what they call the trend companion. Explain what is going on here. So, it'll say, there's a little click box that they've put in a few click boxes that you can do, and you can type in your own queries as well. But this one is provide an explanation for the event. And so it'll tell you that a user has bypassed the normal account creation and has escalated privileges, and that's a problem. So here's why, here's the account, here's the host, different command lines that were used, IPs that it's connecting to, and then the MITRE techniques that were used during that event, right? This is all done through AI, pulling all this stuff together and then bringing it down to you, making it easier. But now you're at an impasse. What do I do next? Okay, so you've told me what's happening. What do I do? And so you can click on that, and it will tell you, based on the severity, you need to probably lock the user out. You need to isolate the system. You need to block the IP, addresses, and then you need to contact the incident response team, right? So it gives you all of these clues as to what needs to happen. So this is great for organizations that just don't have the experienced staff, which is pretty much most organizations. Security has never really been seen historically as an enabler. We are now starting to change that, where people are noticing that if they don't put the money in security, businesses go down for a while. And so security is now actually being seen more as an enabler than they have historically in the past. If you want to type in a question, how do I create a playbook to isolate an endpoint, right? And it will tell you, if you're not familiar with Trent on how to do this, it'll tell you, here's what you need to do, and here's the instructions on how to, isolate endpoint task. But if you don't want to go through all that, you can actually go into workflow and automation. And so what this would do is this would create the workflows across multiple platforms in your environment. So in this particular example, these are actually templates. These are templates you use to create a workflow. So it will show you what's the trigger. Trigger is that we detected a user has logged in and tried to escalate his privileges, right? So, okay, so that's an account compromise. What do we do? Well, then you can send it over to force a sign out, and in this case, it's manual approval, yes, so that there's an email that will go down to a specific individual to approve the manual lockout or not. And the same thing with threat detection. If you detected malware on a machine, you're going to want to isolate that machine. Do you want to do it automatically? That's a slippery slope. Whether you want to do it automatically or you want to send it to approvals. I think when it comes to approvals, you want to know how long will it take to get that approval. If it's a Friday night at 5 o'clock, and I can tell you personally, when I was CISO for DHL, we got hit with malware in Malaysia at 5 o'clock on a Friday night, and nobody found out about it until, Monday. And it went through we were the first ones to get it. So at that time, there was no definitions for it. We were struggling, and luckily our vendor, who was Symantec at the time, and none of you can get Symantec now because you're not one of the top 1,000 in the world. So, but the Symantec at the time, and they were a great partner. They came in and helped us clean it up, and they were able to build their definitions and stuff. But it's nice to have that kind of a partner. So when you have whoever your endpoint protection vendor is, stay in close contact with them. Not just when it's PO time, but, if you've got tickets that are open, feel free to call the sales rep or your engineer and see if they'll help you with that, especially if they've been lingering. That's what partners do, right? They'll help you with that. Looking at workflow assistance, so going back to that other screen where we were in the templates, now we're in actual playbooks. So they have playbooks that are built out that will go, again, across platform, and they can do automated response, whether you want to just pick a playbook and then set it to specific IT environments, you can do that. You can automate everything. I'm a huge fan of integration and automation. With us not being able to hire enough cybersecurity people in the US, not even having them available, integration and automation is the only way we're going to handle this. And again, most of them, you got SentinelOne in the room here, they do the same stuff. And I know that they're in several of your environments, so contact them and find out how they're doing it and learn that, because it's going to be a big thing moving forward if you're trying to do more with less. How about AI used in predictive attack surface management? So if you see an attack that is happening, like the very start of the inception, what could possibly happen? What's the blast radius of that possible attack? So if it's this potentially compromised account, it's on this desktop, this user, and so if it's on this desktop, we know that this user, he's an admin to HR. So from him potentially getting on this machine, the potential is that they can hit HR with that. And you can actually set that blast radius up to go much farther, and I'll show you how that works. The same thing with a suspicious account. You know, you can see that the system admin, you know, has admin to a customer database. And so you want to be able to stop that attack immediately before all of that happens, because that's when things get encrypted and data gets stolen. This one that's right beneath it is actually one that's internet-facing EC2 instance that you can see the S3 bucket, right? And you know, that's one of the highest there, and it's available from internet. So these are the things that you want your AI to go out and look for, and to be able to come back and say, hey, here's some problems that you need to deal with right now. And some of these things can be fixed very easily, and they'll tell you what you need to do to fix them. So any questions so far while I'm just running through? Okay. So we're talking about blast radius again. How about the user blast radius, right? You can find the user, and let's click on, you know, Diego Siciliani and find out that he's really not an administrator of anything. He's a user, so you can see all the directional arrows coming in from his administrator, but if you want to see if that administrator gets compromised, you can click on the asset graph, and it will show you everybody, every account that he's an administrator for. So maybe he's specifically an administrator for HR or for finance, or a specific area, maybe the IT administrator that does accounts for everybody. So these are the things that you can see with him. It just shows that he's a user of Office 365 Exchange. But outside of that, the blast radius will show you where, you know, how far this attack can go if you don't stop it quickly. How about AI used in compliance? This is actually a feature that has not been released yet. It's probably going to be released at the end of this month. Definitely by the end of the year. They did say, Trent did say that I'm allowed to share it. So being able to use AI in compliance, so taking the tools, whether it's a cloud, like they have a tool called Cloud Conformity, that is all about making sure that your cloud is set up properly, and that the security levels are set up, and that all the compliance levels are set up. You know, being able to tap into that, as well as your endpoints, as well as network, and be able to come up with some kind of a compliance based on the frameworks. And these are the frameworks that they have currently that are going to be released. They are going to be adding more frameworks next year, so we're probably going to see, well, I'm thinking we're going to see the 2702, SOC 2 is good. We're going to see the NIST CSF, we're going to see probably 2.0 coming next year. So these are the ones that they're currently working on, but it gives you a fairly decent idea of where you are in your compliance scheme. And where this works really well is with customers, and I deal with a lot of customers who say, we really need to get an assessment, but we know we're so messed up. What we want to do is we want to get a little bit better at what we're doing. We want to get the, you know, to where we're not going to have as many write-ups, and then we'll do it. So this can help you to get to that point of, all right, now we kind of know where we are. Let's go ahead and get an assessment to verify, you know, real assessment to verify. Because there are things that this can't do, like policies. It can't verify that you have a policy on, you know, endpoint protection management, or if you have a policy around what to deal with phishing, which you should be doing or not doing. You can manually input that in here, but they don't have a way to technically check for that. These are using endpoint agents or cloud-based agents to find the actual technical viability of how far you are along in your compliance level. Does that all make sense? A couple nods. What if you're not in compliance? Well, it'll pull up, there's a vulnerability tab in there that will come up and say, look, all of these machines here, they are not compliant. They didn't get their patch last night, they're not within compliance, and you can right click on them and force compliance. You can push the patch out if that's what it is. It can be a configuration change, and you can push that out. It'll connect through your ITMS and push that particular change out using their agents. So this is just kind of fun. So if you want to see what an attack looks like, some folks that have seen me in other presentations on a different ransomware presentation have seen this before, but this is kind of what a successful attack looks like. This is what is called a flight data recorder. And on this particular screen, this is really focused on the network side, looking at 1.133, the top one, and what it is doing. And you can see that they're, on the left and on the left side, there's lateral movement and CC callback. On the right side, it's CNC callback. So this one is not the actual targeted machine. This is one that And we'll show you in a second that down the second from the bottom, 123, that was the actual targeted machine. So this is after it's already been compromised. And it will show you that it is going out. It's already gone to 160, and now 123 is coming in. And there's internal, they're talking to command and control. There's already lateral movement, and then they're going to add a couple more machines and export outside. So that's based on that. That's an actual attack. So there's really no lateral movement out. There's no malware out. It's them getting connected, finding what machines they need to find data on, and then they're going to make their exchange. Okay, so this particular one, this is focusing on 123. They are the attacked machine. And so now you're going to see how all this works, and you can see on the left and the right there's malicious transfer, lateral movement, CNC callbacks, and other malicious activities, which is usually the ransomware, or not the ransomware, but the encryption piece of it. So being able to show this, you know, they've already they're connecting, they're doing CNC callbacks, now they're going and they're gathering data, and you're going to see arrows in which data is flowing, and then eventually it's boom, it's all going out. As you can see, CNC callback, now lateral movement, other malicious, and encryption's occurring, and they're out. So that's how the flight data recorder works. And pretty soon I expect to see even more data in there as they're able to ingest more sensors into the flight data recorder. Make sure I'm still on time. So how do we mitigate these? You know, have an XDR solution that can ingest information, not just send its information out to a SOC, especially if you're trying to, you know, reduce your cost, or you just can't afford an expensive SIM, right? So you want to make sure it's hitting your endpoint and your cloud and your email and your network and CASB and VMs, containers. These are all things you need to do. Solid web reputation service. The only way we know it's talking to a known command and control is because it's that command and control and the behavior of that particular activity has been noted and is in a blacklist. So we know that you're talking to a known command and control. Timely OS patching, I don't even know why we still have to talk about this, but I see it all the time where patches are 6 months past, and and then they have an attack, and they're like, yeah, we didn't get those systems patched. Well, that may be why. Admin privileges, how many of y'all allow local admin on your machines? I see people giggling back there, so, okay, you gotta stop that, seriously. So whatever the attacker comes in as, that's where that's where his privileges start. If he's got local admin, that gives him access to your SAM file to be able to pull any passwords that are on there and start decrypting them. It really gives them access to all that. You need to get rid of the admin privileges. Network segmentation, huge deal. I did an assessment at a hospital once, and the first thing I did, I was like, well, let me just plug in my laptop. Let me just see what I can see. Start out. Flattest network I've ever seen in my life. I could see HR, I could see finance, their server room, their PCI environment, their credit cards. I could see the electronic medical records environment. None of it was segmented. And I told him, I said, this is like now. And he's like, well, that's on our 3 to 5 year plan. I said, nope, that's a 3 to 5 month plan. That's number one. That's the thing you got to do. And they're like, no, we'll get to it. You know, we're just trying to figure out how to tell the board so we can get the money. And that's the other thing and I'll get to is you got to be good communicators and translators to the board, right? So I can tell you 10 months later after I left that hospital after that assessment, they were compromised in a big way. 6 million records gone that were stolen. And they got it fixed then, which is always the question I ask is if you guys went to your board or wherever you get your funding from today and said, we need $300,000 to fix the things that need to be fixed in cybersecurity to make sure we're not going to be compromised. How many of you think you could just get that? 1, 2, maybe. So if you got attacked and now all your systems are gone, they're encrypted, they're backups, you can recover from backups, but you still have to get the machines fixed, you have to get them back online, you have to make sure that the way they got in, they can't get in again. You need to put all the protections in place that you were going to do before, but now it's going to cost $800,000. How many of you would get the $800K to get your business back online? A lot of you guys are going to be homeless because I don't see a lot of hands up. But when I'm talking, and I do talk to boards on behalf of IT organizations because they haven't had much luck, and I've talked to a lot of boards. you got to talk to them in terms that they understand. But I try to tell them, look, an attack's going to cost you minimum 800 grand to remediate the attack, to get all of your files back, to start your business running, and to make sure that that never happens again. Why not give me 1/3 right now? Give me 1/3 of that. Let us fix it, and then you don't have to deal with it. And a lot of times you get it, but it's a matter of how you speak to them, and I'll explain that a little bit better too. Awareness training, we know that I'm not going to spend time. Incident response training for your security staff. If you got security staff on board, those guys love this stuff, right? People don't do security because they're forced into it. They do it because they love it. And they love training. Strangely enough, I've found security guys will be sent to a $3,000 training course for a week, and they get mad because they didn't even get a T-shirt. So if the company doesn't hand out a T-shirt, get one made for them so they'll appreciate it a little more. But like CDW, we do training, and it's not just like Cisco or Microsoft or Palo or AWS training. We have very specific security training. So if you want to learn how to do malware reverse engineering, we have that. If you want to do threat hunting with Python, we have that. We have a very significantly deep security stack of training. And we can actually assess your team for free. We have an assessment online where they can come in and they can take a test, and we can assess them and show them where they are compared to either your other individuals or to the industry. And you can say, hey, they're a SOC 1 engineer. I want to get them to a SOC 2 or 3. We can help develop that training plan. So that you got to get the training for them, and they appreciate it. They stick around. Email security platform, up-to-date, PowerShell. I'm just skipping through a lot of these. Multi-factor authentication. I think most people understand now that that's an important deal. Backups. Here's the thing. If you can get them air-gapped and offline, great. Make sure at least they're immutable where you can't change them once the backups are done. But even bigger than that, test your recoveries. I can't even explain how many times as a consultant I've gone in with customers that have had a failure, and they tried to recover from backups and they couldn't recover. They don't know why they can't recover, but they've never tested their recovery. So now they're going to their full, that's a month back, and everything else, and they can't get back, and they'll go back another month and they still can't get it. And in one case, they lost 5 years of financial data. Yeah, they had to go back and hand jam. So final thoughts. Have a roadmap, right? So when I mean a roadmap is know where you're at today, and I'll throw this out. I'm with CDW, I'm a field CISO, I'm non-billable, which means I can come down and talk with you all day long and you don't receive a bill. So I do a lot of whiteboard sessions where I'll go into a room with them for 4 hours or even a full day, and we start whiteboarding all their tech, what they have, and finding technical debt. I know with one city, they got compromised, and every vendor in the world showed up to sell them a product that would make sure it never happened again. By the time they were done, they had 4 endpoint security vendors. They were already using Palo, yet they had a closet with 5 Cisco router box or firewalls in a closet that had been there for a year, because that's about how long the event. It was over a year ago. And so we started whiteboarding everything and finding out what tech they owned, and we found that they had about $500,000 in technical debt that we were able to, in 4 hours, wipe away. And he's like, well, so I don't need to renew them? I was like, look, the only thing worse than owning shelfware is renewing shelfware. So no, don't renew it. Let's go with the tools you have. Let's go with the tools that communicate together so we can integrate this stuff. Work with whoever you buy security through. If it's CDW, great. I'll have all the contact information for the team up here in a second. If it's them, great. Whoever you buy security through, work with them, find out what you need, and then work with that vendor or your partner to get quotes. Find out how much that's going to cost. And then that will help you to talk to the board. So if something happens, they're like, well, what are we going to do? Well, here's what we need. We need to have this. I got this all prepared for you. Oh, well, this is the same thing you showed me before. Yep, still need it. Right? That hasn't changed, only now we need it more. Quantify the risk. And when I mean quantify, I mean be able to put a dollar figure to it. I'm one of CDW's SMEs on risk quantification, and I can literally sit down and show you how, by looking at how your organization gets revenue, how many hours are open, what technology you're using, how many employees you have, all of that information, everything about your organization that I'll need to talk to your CFO, maybe CEO, CTO about, and then build up the risk quantification piece, and then take that with real-world cyber insurance claims data, how much they've paid, how much the organizations have paid to fix things, and I can give you a realistic number on risk quantification. And that's what the board wants to see. They want to see risk, they want to see cost, and how much you're going to reduce. If you say, look, if you give me $1.5 million, I'm going to reduce $30 million in risk, and here's how and here's why. Incident spending comes really fast, but it ends just as fast. If you go a month without having any incidents, the CIO is going to go, hey, well, we haven't had an incident in a month, so we should be good, right? So never let a good breach go to waste. And this is why I call myself a recovering CISO, because for those of you who have aspirations of being a CISO, just have a thick skin, and that's all I have. I'll be around for a little bit if you have questions. Here's my contact information. The slides will be available, and you'll have my contact information too. So if you want to set up a whiteboard meeting, hit me up, or hit up the sales team, and they'll bring me in. And that is all I have for you.